Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Josie's Point of View, where we focus on human interest stories from the Carolinas and beyond. Today it's Wednesday and it's November the 27th, 2025. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new to my channel, I want to thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you find the information here to be informative. And if you're a returning viewer, by all means, thank you for coming back. You know, I always say the tide changes so frequently here on these YouTube streets. So you always have to acknowledge where your support comes from. And I want you to know I sincerely thank you for your support. So feel free to like and to share this video. And don't forget to subscribe. And our story today is coming out of Fort Bragg here in North Carolina. Take a look at the headline. And it reads, North Carolina paratrooper cleared of murder, now charged with multiple sex crimes. I'll provide you with a summary here, and I'll identify some of my sources for you in the description box. Well, this is a news story that will probably leave you a little bit confused. It's a bit creepy, I have to admit, and on the surface it probably does not make much sense, but I have a theory about what's going on. So stick with me until the end, and I'll share my personal perspective on this messy situation. So today's story, we are revisiting a paratrooper we have discussed a few times already here on Josie's Point of View. He's Army Sergeant Gabriel Ceville, a paratrooper assigned to 82nd Division here at Fort Bragg. And this is the summary from one of the local newspapers. But nonetheless, back in the spring of 2023, Sergeant Ceville was accused of beating his 8-month-old daughter to death on Fort Bragg. The baby was seriously injured the same day custody was transferred to him, and she died a few days later. And based on the coroner's findings of blunt force trauma to the head and neck, the child's death was ruled a homicide. So Ceville was ordered to face a general court-martial to answer for the following charges: unpremeditated murder, involuntary manslaughter, and domestic violence. Now, that general court-martial took place this past January 2025, and Sergeant Ceville was found not guilty of all of the charges. Now, one of the doctors who testified stated that it's possible the attempts to save the child's life could have produced some of the symptoms noted in the coroner's report. And right or wrong, he was now a free man, free to resume his military career. And the presiding judge at that court-martial ordered that all of his benefits and privileges that may have been paused during the trial, that judge ordered that all of those were to restore to him. And many in the community felt that the court-martial just got it all wrong, but the decision was final. And Sergeant Ceville even took a time to comment on one of my videos. Now, he wasn't doing any media presses, no media interviews, but he did take a moment to comment under one of my videos, letting me know that he was found not guilty. So I responded back by congratulating him and wishing him well. So the question is this: why are we still talking about Sergeant Gabriel Ceville, a soldier recently acquitted of murder? You might think that a person who had gone through that much would completely disappear from the spotlight as he works to rebuild his image, rebuild his life, and rebuild his military career. But that's a great assumption, but it may not be completely true, because Sergeant Ceville's continue to dominate the news, and not in a positive way. Well, fast forward to Capital City Mall, which is located in Pennsylvania, and the date is June the 19th, 2025. And yes, it's a long way from North Carolina, but with good reason. There's a location close by where it's a military facility and a well-known training site. And I'm sure you probably heard of it. The base is Fort Indiantown Gap in Pennsylvania, described as the busiest National Guard training center in the nation. But keep in mind, we all train together, both active and reserve, so it's not unusual for active duty soldiers from different locations to be participating in training at the National Guard Center. We all train together. So let's return to the incident of June the 19th, 2025. Now, Around 7:30 p.m., police say they responded to Capital City Mall parking lot following a report by a female victim who said that a man had exposed his genitals while pleasuring himself in a vehicle with the door open. The victim told police the man honked at her to get her attention and continued to pleasure himself while looking directly at her. The victim was able to capture the vehicle's license number, which was a North Carolina number. And when police traced that number, they discovered the owner of the vehicle was our own North Carolina paratrooper, Gabriel Ceville. So detectives shared the information with other law enforcement agencies in the surrounding area. I guess they wanted to figure out was anyone else having a problem. And in one particular county, there were two similar reports in which the same vehicle was identified with the same type of problem. Now, police in the mall incident already knew that Ceville was their suspect. They also knew he was a soldier from Fort Bragg in the training there at Fort Indian Town Gap, so that was easy for them to find out. So they contacted him for an interview, and investigators eventually got him to admit that he was in the area of the mall on June the 19th when that incident, he didn't admit to the incident, but he did admit he was in that area of the mall. But when police analyzed the two calls from the other county, those calls were made on June 20th and 21st, the 2 days following the current mall incident. They realized the calls were made by the same person, and police eventually concluded that Gabriel Ceville made those calls himself in an effort to throw off their investigation. I know, I can read your minds already, but I promise you, I'm not making this up. They say he allegedly made two false reports in another county in order to throw off their investigation. So they knew it was him and they issued a warrant for his arrest. And this is the actual copy of the warrant from that Pennsylvania Police Department. See, they identified him by name, Gabriel Ceville and Alejandro, his middle name. In the middle section here, it has his age and his specific demographics. And here are the charges: indecent exposure and false report to law enforcement authorities. Those were the charges issued on this warrant. And as you might expect, this was all over the news in Pennsylvania. And here's from one of the local television stations. This is a summary of what came on broadcasted for folks to see. It talks about the address warrant, and it talks about some of the things we have already discussed. First, you see the charges here. He was exposing himself and doing whatever in public. It talks about where it was, talks about the date that he was in the Army and that he was in training at Fort Indian Town Gap. And another media source from Pennsylvania indicated that he was actually served with their warrant and he was arrested on October the 1st, 2025. And I'm sure by now you're thinking this is a lot. You're probably thinking we've probably heard the last of Sergeant Gabriel Ceville for quite some time. If that's what you're thinking, you're wrong. Wrong answer, because there's more. You see, just a matter of a few weeks after he was served that warrant from Pennsylvania, Sergeant Ceville got himself in trouble again, breaking the law in his home state and forcing the Fayetteville Police Department to have to arrest him. And this is what has been reported by the Fayetteville Police Department regarding that incident. It was October the 24th, and Fayetteville police received a complaint that a 15-year-old girl was trying on clothes in the fitting room inside the JCPenney store here at the Cross Creek Mall. Now, she looked up and saw a camera on a stick above her fitting room wall. The victim yells and tells the person to stop, and the victim begins dressing herself. The victim then hears the person in the next stall open the door and runs from the area. And of course, the store security was notified. They had to get involved. They reviewed store surveillance footage and spotted a man in the area before he ran away. Exterior footage was also examined, and it showed the same man leaving the mall parking lot in a gray Hyundai. So Fayetteville police was contacted. They got involved. They used facial recognition software and vehicle registration information to identify an active duty soldier as the owner of that gray Hyundai. Footage from public safety cameras placed the same car in the area of the mall an hour before the dressing room incident. Also, the physical description of the individual matched those of an earlier report of a mall exposing complaint, but that was back in 2024. And in that incident, the license plate of the car was covered. But in this recent incident, the license plate was not. But the car description, as well as the description of the person, matched those of an active duty soldier, and that active duty soldier was identified as our very own paratrooper, Gabriel Ceville. And police took a few weeks to complete their investigation, which included looking at all surveillance cameras and interviewing witnesses. And on November the 8th, they officially issued a warrant for his arrest. So Sergeant Gabriel Ceville was officially charged by the Fayetteville Police Department on November the 8th with secret peeping. He was arrested on November the 11th, Veterans Day, booked into the Cumberland County Detention Center, and assigned a bond of $20,000. No follow-up court date is currently available. So let me tell you what I think about this very messy paratrooper incident. It's either one of two things. Sergeant Ceville is either putting on one heck of an act, playing crazy, in order to get out of the military, or he's someone who has some very serious medical issues. And I have to say allegedly because I don't know that to be true. Because you see, NCOs just don't behave in this manner. It's just unheard of. I know the military has changed since the days when I was an NCO and the days when I was a commissioned officer, but it hasn't changed that much. This man is either putting on one heck of an act, wanting people to see him as being crazy, or he's some type of predator. And again, I say allegedly. And I tell you one thing, regardless of which version you select, I can tell you with certainty the military simply fed up with him. And so is the local community. Don't believe his behavior just changed all of a sudden. He's getting something out of it, even if it's just creating a paper trail. But what it does is places his entire existence under scrutiny, even that court martial in which he was found not guilty in the death of his daughter. And I'm saying allegedly, but it does. It makes people want to go back and look and see whether or not they actually got it right. But I won't be surprised if behind the scene the military is taking their own set of action, either to discipline him, put him in jail, or to kick him out. But no matter what, he's got charges in Fayetteville, he's got charges in Pennsylvania, and I'm sure the military is looking at him now for conduct unbecoming of an NCO, so he's going to jail somewhere. I'll try to stay on top of this case, and I'll bring you updates whenever they become available. And that's all I have for you right now, but feel free to leave me a comment below and let me know what you think about this video, and by all means, feel free to like it and to share it. And if you haven't done so already, I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel by clicking on that red subscribe button. It's on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And if you click on the bell that looks like just like this one, that's the notification bell. If you click on that notification bell, you'll be the first to know whenever a new video is uploaded. I thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.